Welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. My name is Swizz, continuing on with my Supercoach BBL team discussion series. Next up, we have the Perth Scorchers, but before I jump into that, as always, check us out on all our social media platforms, in particular YouTube, Spotify, and get in contact with us via X, Supercoach Insider 100 or Swizz26 for me directly. All right, the Scorchers, relevant like the Strikers because of that round 2 double. They don't have a bye, which is handy. It looks like a lot of the byes have been removed this season, which is a very nice thing indeed. They start off with the Melbourne Stars, who are a bit undermanned, got absolutely pants today by the Renegades. So where I was trying to look at more Strikers players for my round 1 match, it does make me want to pick at least one bowler from the Scorchers because potentially there's going to be wickets galore over there at Optus Stadium. Then they've got the Hobart Hurricanes down in Hobart and the Renegades at Marvel, 2 away trips, but probably an hour away from each other. And then have a nice little fixture with some home games there in the middle. In regards to their team, there are a few outs at the moment. The big one, Aaron Hardy, who is currently in 33% of teams, so 1/3 of the competition. You need to make a move. The hope is he'll be available for round 2, but for now, he is definitely out for round 1. Ashton Turner and Ashton Agar are both fighting for fitness and probably not going to be available round 1, more likely round 2 for them, which Marsh we know is obviously part of the test squad. Cooper Connolly is also trying to get back from that injury, but at the moment looks the most likely of the rest to play. If not, they just did sign Bryce Jackson today, added him in at that 39.5k price, but they are looking a little bit more undermanned compared to some of those other Perth Scorchers teams that we've seen on the park before. That probably middle order would like Laurie Evans right now, just to sort of boost it up, but they've still got enough quality on the park, especially with that bowling attack, if they do go the 4 pace options. So Finn Allen up the top, the New Zealand batsman, and then Keaton Jennings over from England. Both can potentially look at if you want a batting option, but I think most people will be looking at the number 3 and the 4 from the Scorchers for their double, which will be Inglis and Hardy. A lot of people are looking at starting Inglis. 30% of teams at the moment is part of the Australian squad, unless something horrifically goes wrong with Alex Carey over the next couple of days. You would expect Inglis to be released and play at least the first match. I'm a little worried about starting him. I'd like to start him as the keeper. The only worry is what happens if something does go wrong and then he's not available for the double. I guess you just trade him out. But so I've been trying to avoid picking Inglis in my side, and I'd rather trade into him for week 2 than actually starting him. The only problem is because you'll probably want Hardy too if he's available. We're going to sort of free up cash, which means you're going to have to try to pick some bowlers from the Scorchers. And this is what I was talking about in my Adelaide Strikers team discussion. Is it's easy to start the Strikers over some of these Scorchers players. Matthew Hurst and Nick Hobson, expect them to be middle order. For now, that'll obviously be reshuffled when players come back in. Cooper Connolly has been playing for Australia, did make 7 not out in the recent Pakistan series, did bowl in the England and Scotland series early in the year for a young man who I think is still 21 years old. Big future ahead of him. Bat bowl, I see he's already in quite a few sides, 21%. So if he is fit, ready to go for the week 1, he is one I'm definitely looking at starting as the spinning option. The only problem is, I think Cooper Connolly is going to have the spot over Ashton Agar, or they'll play both of them. But there's always that little concern about what they're going to go with their bowling lineup. Matthew Spores is in there for now. Might get the nod over some of the others just because obviously they do have all these outs. So there is a bit of a reshuffle of their team. The big one, but for the Scorchers, is what do we do with this quick bowling lineup? Most likely they'll play the 4 quicks. We got Jai Richardson, who was only a couple of years ago scored that 260 in a round. Absolute superstar bowler. Andrew Ty has been doing it for so long. Great change up. Will bowl later in the innings. Jason Beradoff will open the bowling. Always seems to do. Played in the T10 series, and obviously being a T10, you see some really high economy rates. He only took the 2 wickets, but his economy rate was under 10. I think for the tournament it was around that mark anyway, which is really good for a T10. So and that's why he's 160k. You'll see him regularly get economy bonus. And then the wild thing, Lance Morris, So like we know all about him. Just the question is, it's always been a little bit of fitness, but did take 2 for 24 against Pakistan in the recent international. So they're all great options. Jai Richardson seems to be the one that more people are leaning towards, 19% at the moment, where Berendorf 9, Ty 7, and Morris is currently at 5%, and Richardson being at that 130 price. I would have him in a heartbeat. Like, looked good recently in the first class match, but it is his shoulder which is the concern. They were talking about recently, it's like, I think it was even in that first class match where he went off in the first innings, came back after he already had 2 for 1 or something ridiculous, and came back later, still took another wicket. But they did say there will be problems where it'll pop in and pop out, which does have me worried. So I would nearly prefer not to start Richardson. He's in my side at the moment, but to look at trading him in. But again, against the Melbourne Stars, one of these bowlers could absolutely go nuts. Maybe a couple of them could. So Richardson's always the one that I do like. It's just the worry is what happens if that shoulder does pop out and then you only get 1 or 2 overs out of him, and then it's going to kind of muck us around. So any of the other options are good. Andrew Tye, it's only an extra 10 grand to kind of get up to him to start with him. I do like Morris. You could go either way. Berendorf would be a nice point of difference because of that sort of extra price. I don't think, at 9% at the moment, still reasonably high, but are the people going to be trying to trade in Hardy and Inglis and other guys as well? So depends on how many Scorchers you can fit in, but Stars, Hurricanes and Renegades starting off, like in a perfect world, maybe it's 4 strikers and 5 Scorchers if you can get to sort of that situation, which means how many Scorchers do you need to start? If you're going to use a boost from round 1 to round 2, make the 4 trades. If you're like me and trying to start more strikers, you could just use all 4 to bring in Scorchers, and if you've already got 1, that would be 5 in total. So it'd probably, if everybody's available and fit, you'd want Hardy, Inglis, Richardson, and then maybe it's Cooper Connolly and one of the other quicks in a perfect world. So there are a ton of options here and a few ways you can go. The hard thing is obviously at how much money you can spend and you really want sitting there, and that's why I think Berendorf and maybe even Morris people aren't leaning as much to start, because Richardson at 130, it is just that little bit of cheaper price, and if he's on your bench or if he is still on field, you'd rather spend more money on the players that have doubles first up. So that's what I guess a lot of people are thinking at the moment. I'm in the consensus team. I think Richardson and Inglis were both very much locked away in there. A lot of the other podcast creators are picking them at the moment. So again, just consider the risk there. If like Richardson's fit, ready to go, looks good, but that shoulder injury is a worry. So maybe if you can find the extra 10k, get up to Andrew Tye and then just trade Richardson in with Inglis and Hardy. The good thing is if you are looking at starting a Seinfeld, as I said recently in the Renegades podcast, 152k, hopefully it keeps around that same price. It's an easy one to get to Inglis. If you're trying to trade like a Webster or a Curran, if that's how you've set it up, it is easy to go Webster to Hardy and even a Curran to one of these other bowlers as well, and then trade these guys back out to those Stars players when it comes to the Stars in the round 3 for their double. So that's one strategy to do it, and just be mindful that one of those trades probably for round 2 into round 3 will probably be short to Maxwell, and then obviously then back the other way again. So this is where planning your trades is very important. But yeah, so the Scorchers with that fixture, yeah, maybe it's instead of Inglis, maybe start 2 bowlers instead, Richardson and Tye. That might be the best way to go as well. Something to think about, and just wait until see what happens with Inglis come round 2. Hope you enjoyed that, and we will move on to both the Sydney teams to finish off this team discussion series. Thank you.